What do you think it feels like to be a hero? What does it take to be a hero? Is it being the good or compassionate? Or is it someone who foolishly follows orders from the higher ups? Well, no matter what it takes, in this story, a hero who once defeated a demon king dies due to traitors, and as a result, revenge is his only way to make them pay. This story begins in a kingdom called Kurz. A hero named Raul, whom the people loved, has finally killed the demon king, who's brought terror to everyone. However, instead of being treated as an honorable hero, he's seen tied up as he is now about to get his punishment. Wondering why? Well, it turns out that the royal princess named Victoria of the Kurz kingdom has grown to despise Raul for overtaking her popularity among people after defeating the demon king. She did give him a choice to marry her, and he should be spared. However, Raul declined the offer and is now subjected to execution. The people who once loved him have now turned against him, all because of the power that the princess holds. As a result, on his last breaths, Raul mutters and swears that he'll kill everyone in the same suffering that they have put him through. He promises to show them despair and agony on the day he comes back. The people around him then laugh it off. After all, how could a dead man possibly exact his revenge? Fast forward, Raul now wakes up in the brightest white place he has ever been. There he meets the goddess of love, who seems interested in him as well. It seems like Raul is a magnet for hot girls, huh? Raul, knowing that he can easily manipulate the love goddess, asks her to resurrect him to exact his revenge. 1 year later, back at the Kurz kingdom, Princess Victoria is seen preparing for a wedding parade with Count Emil. Before the event even started, one of her commanding knights from the Royal Order of Chivalry, named Sandler, suggested that the event should be postponed in the meantime while they investigate some unsettling matters happening in the kingdom. It is said that for the past month, there was an unknown attack that killed all of the princess's front guards, which has been making everyone anxious for the princess's safety. To add to that, there have also been some reports of an unknown disease spreading throughout the kingdom. People who are infected with the said diseases mutter the word, "Bless Her Highness the Princess," over and over again while they are delirious with a high fever. However, the princess couldn't care less for her people. Instead, she even went too far as to say that the Order of Chivalry and the people of the kingdom should be her shield, so her safety wouldn't be a matter of question. Little did she know some awful things would happen to her a few hours from now. On the way to the grand event, the son of Princess Auclair, Count Emile Auclair, is seen with Princess Victoria in a carriage. However, instead of seeing a sparkle of love in Victoria's eyes, she's rather irritated by the stupidity of the Count. However, such things are what's making her interested in Emile. Aside from being good looking, which is a plus, being a stupid and foolish husband that will be easily manipulated is what really matters to Victoria. This way, she can ensure that the power over the whole kingdom is hers and hers alone, even if they have a child. As they reach their destination, cheers from the people echo throughout the whole plaza. When Emile and Victoria are stating their vows to each other, the sound of blood splattering stops the event. Then, as Victoria turns her head, her eyes widen as she sees Raul all well and alive. Victoria can't seem to believe that Raul is in front of her. After all, she had witnessed him die through her orders. Raul then states that he has been resurrected from the depths of hell in order to get revenge on the people that betrayed him. But before he has reached this point, we must go back to the time he was in heaven. I mean, we can't possibly forget about the goddess of love who had sacrificed everything for Raul, right? Raul Evans had seen the goddess way back before he was even thrown into the world for the first time as a hero. The goddess of love seems to be so affectionate towards him that she is willing to do everything to make him hers. Even the time that Raul requested for her to send him back to Earth for revenge as well as for her to give him back his powers. Although it was a grave sin according to the law of the gods, the goddess of love nonetheless did what Raul requested, all because she was in love with him. Raul used the soft spot of the goddess to get what he wanted, and so he did. It's now just a matter of time before we know what will happen next. As Raul kissed the goddess as hard as anyone could imagine, the goddess tinkled in happiness. As a result, she then gives what Raul has requested. With a big smirk on his face, Raul is now one step closer to fulfilling his plans. As he says it will be the beginning of a new legend for the kingdom's hero. Raul is then reincarnated back to the nasty corrupt kingdom once again. There he is welcomed by the front guards. As he remembers how the front guards have slaughtered his men like animals, with his powers, he ended their lives in a flash. Now this explains who killed the front guards in the case that the Commander Knight has been investigating. During this time, Raul is able to hear about the princess's wedding parade. With an evil smile, he has now found the perfect place to exact his revenge on the royalty. It's been a month since Raul has been reincarnated from the brink of death, and since he has been waiting for this day patiently, he can't wait any longer to see the agony and suffering on the princess's face. But before anything happens to the princess, whom they see as the messenger of God, the Commander Knight jumps right in to protect her. The commander somehow believes that Raul is a demon that copied the appearance of the fallen hero. That said, to make the princess believe that it is indeed him, he moves closer to her with the most devilish look on his face. As the Order of Chivalry tries to stop him from doing any more harm to the princess, he cuts their heads off without even touching them. This made the whole plaza panic. When everyone rushes to escape in order to save their lives from the hands of Raul, Raul tells everyone to stay as he is about to show them a spectacular show worth watching involving the royal princess. People tried to flee, but it seemed like everyone was now under Raul's power as their feet froze to the ground. They then start telling Rawl that they are just ordinary people and have no affiliation with the princess. These statements made the princess angry to the point that she even asked the Commander Knight to slice off her legs just to save her. On the other hand, as Rawl sees Emil already peeing himself in the corner because of fear, he uses his powers to move the Count's body to hold the princess in place. And the next thing that happens shocks everyone, including me. Rawl removes the princess's red dress as he thinks it wouldn't complement the color of blood as much as a white one. With the princess's bosom on full display, the men from the audience can't seem to control themselves from fantasizing about it. Of course, this made the princess very angry towards Rawl. But that wasn't the main event yet. Rawl then reveals that since the princess is so eager to have a baby whom she can control to take over the throne, Rawl is doing her a favor by executing her plans as early as possible. However, the question is it Rawl who will be the father of the future royalty? Makes me wonder. Now to answer that, why don't we dive into the story more? While the princess mutters the words that no lowly individual can possibly touch her sacred body, the Commander Knight then tells Rawl to face them honorably. This word brings a wave of unforgettable memories for Rawl. Just about 1 year ago, before Rawl went on the quest to kill the Demon King, he stayed in a village called Makale. There he was able to get closer to everyone from the old to the young. And since he'll be the future hero of everyone, almost everyone in the village is excited about his comeback after he kills the Demon King. However, since Princess Victoria is a freaking devilish woman after Rawl gained so much popularity and respect from the people, she orders her knights to kill and torture everyone in the said village, all for the sole purpose of getting Rawl's reaction. Although the knights thought the princess's orders were unnecessary, they didn't really have any choice. After executing the villagers in the most horrible way possible, Rawl was in deep shock as he saw the current state of his village. The moment that he set foot on the land, he was captured by the kingdom's knights immediately. Now back to the present, as this flashback starts rushing to Rawl, the Commander Knight can't seem to compose herself as she tries to explain her side, stating that they didn't have any choice considering that the princess's orders must be followed no matter what. Rawl then uses his magical powers to increase the volume of the commander's voice for the people to hear. At that moment, everyone in the plaza is now made aware of the awful things that the princess has done. It turns out that the princess made it look like Rawl killed everyone in the village to make the people in favor of her. However, it seems like, as the old saying goes, the truth will always prevail. But all this drama isn't enough for Rawl, so he controls the commander's body once more and uses it to punch the hell out of the beautiful face of Princess Victoria. Now, with all the bruises and swelling on the princess's face, no one could ever possibly recognize her anymore. But it doesn't stop there yet, since we're about to dive into the juiciest part. Just before the subjugation of the Demon King, one of the closest people to Rawl, his sister with her unborn child and husband, bids him farewell as he goes on the mission. Little did Rawl know that this would be the last time he would ever see his sister. To make things worse, it seems like Princess Victoria really wanted to irritate and emotionally torture Rawl during this time that she even personally escorted Rawl to the church, which is supposed to be the sacred home of God, now covered in blood. There, the scent of the church was reeking of blood and flowers. Flowers being what Rawl correlated his loving sister with. Now for the finale that everyone is anticipating, the princess will now atone for the sin of killing Rawl's sister. However, he can't just possibly kill Princess Victoria just like that. I mean, where's the fun, right? Rawl suppresses his anger once more, and in order to torture the princess in the worst way imaginable, he punches the princess like there's no tomorrow, causing the royalty to puke gallons of blood. As she stumbles to the ground, Emil on his back trembles in fear. Everyone is watching as the great princess suffers excruciating pain. For the majority, to escape such agony, some of us usually beg for our lives or plead sorry. However, that wasn't the case for the princess at all. Rawl then tells her that she is just reaping what she has sowed, that this event is just retribution for her misdeeds and that he is just copying what she did to people. That said, as Rawl already had much fun playing with the princess's ego and pride, he marks the day's performances to an end, unfreezing everyone from his magic. However, the princess doesn't even give up at all. She then orders the men in the crowd to kill Rawl in an instant. One of the knights successfully pierced its sword to Rawl, which made the princess very happy. But it seems like Rawl is already immortal, as none of the swords were able to kill him. That said, he reminds the princess that he'll come back after the princess's recovery. It seems like there is a part 2 for this act. That said, while everything is already falling into place for Rawl, he then decides to visit his old village to pay his sister's grave a visit. He lays some flowers on the church's hall where his sister died and says he's sorry for visiting late. Then what looks like a hologram image of his sister pops up in the air. He then informs the said image that the priest who once sold her has now been killed, and that he will make sure that everyone who has done wrong, not just to his sister but to the innocent ones, will pay for their sins. Back at the castle, Princess Victoria is seen torturing the Knights Commander to death. The princess can't seem to accept the fact that her people now have turned against her, and are currently seeing her as a curse, all because of the statements that the commander had stated in the plaza. However, the rage that the princess feels for the Knights Commander is nowhere to be compared to how she feels towards Rawl. That's why she orders her knights to immediately look for Rawl and make sure to bring his head to her no matter what. A kingdom messenger is then seen rushing towards the woods as he tries to find the only one that everyone thinks could defeat Rawl. However, before he can even reach his destination, he's bombarded by a bunch of goblins from all over the place. As he tries to fight them all back, a goblin king sneaks on his back. Caught off guard, the kingdom's messenger would almost die if it were not for a mysterious strong man who rushes in to help him. It turns out that the man who helped him is the same man he's looking for. He's said to be the greatest swordsman in the country. With that said, the second chapter, The Forbidden Carnival, has finally begun. Then we are taken to the swordsman's mansion. There it is seen that he is enjoying a meal with his lovely wife and 2 sons. Then a new servant asks the general what meal he would like to be served to the kingdom's messenger. Hearing such a question made the head servant panic, as he informed the general that the guy was a newbie. The general then tells the new servant that there is no need to think much of it since the messenger has immediately gone back to the kingdom. Or did he? As the general's family continues to eat their meal, another servant enters the room, delivering the main dish that the general has been eyeing to eat since earlier. With just the smell of the food, the general is easily captivated by the experience it will give. But the moment that he took a bite, his reaction was beyond imaginable, as the food gave off the taste of victory. In his head, he then says thank you to the messenger for his hard work. The next day, the general now is about to go to the capital to start looking for Rawl. As he says his farewells to his family, his children are giggling happily at the excitement that their father is about to kill another strong man. When their father was already out, the brothers started hunting, and for their age, they are rather aggressive and brutal. The brothers didn't think much of their surroundings as long as they killed their prey. However, it seems like the two have already grown bored of their hunting pet, but the thought that their father is about to bring them another pet to play with once he comes home made the brothers delighted on a devilish level. After they finally kill the animal pet they have been playing with, Rawl then comes into the scene asking them if he could join. However, it seems like Rawl isn't in the mood to play with them, so he ties them up really well as he overlooks his assigned task to the general's servants digging the ground around the mansion. As they dug deeper and deeper, they were able to uncover some unsettling discoveries. Bones of dead people are scattered everywhere. It seems like the general has an addiction to eating human flesh. Even the poor kingdom messenger who thought he would be safe from the goblins got killed by the general instead. However, no matter how many times Rawl asks one of the servants to tell the truth about the general's evil doing, it seems like his mouth is completely shut, all for the sole reason that the general has been paying them a ton of money to cover up his nasty actions. While Rawl is busy trying to order the general's servants, the general's wife is seen lurking behind a building. She prepares her poisonous bow as she's about to use this to supposedly kill Rawl. However, the tables have turned for the general's wife, as she's now the one who is killed by the use of Rawl's magical controlling powers. Meanwhile, somewhere in the forest, Rawl made this hologram type image of the messenger that the general has killed to send a hint to the general that something bad has been happening inside his mansion and family. And just like that, the general has finally reached the mansion only to be welcomed by his wife's naked dead body hanging on a tree with her guts out and about. This made the general as furious as anyone could imagine. The general then asks for his sons. Rawl then assures him that they are well and is even the one who did the magnificent masterpiece on their mother's body. As the general swings his sword continuously, Rawl just smirks it off like nothing. Then, Rawl asks the general if the image of his wife hanging on a tree like a butchered animal reminds him of something called the Baden village, the hometown where Rawl grew up. In a flashback about many years ago, in the said village called Baden, Rawl with his sister and mother have been living their simple lives in the happiest way possible. Although their lives were not as lavish as others, they were a joyous family nonetheless. However, everything changed when what was supposed to be another happy day in the village turned gruesome and bloody. It is said that demons had attacked the village, according to the general, at least to what he has said to little Rawl that time. To make it worse for Rawl and his sister, they saw their mother hanged in a tree like a butchered animal with her guts hanging out of her body. With the anger he felt inside seeing his mother brutally and disrespectfully killed, Rawl's inner power was awakened at that time. So the general took him to the capital to be trained and owned. However, as Rawl grew up, he realized that the people he trusted were actually the demons who killed the people in the village and his mother. It turns out that the general had killed Rawl's mother and eaten her like he used to with his other victims. Since Rawl remembers such events, the general tries to emotionally attack him in hopes that triggering his past trauma will catch him off guard. However, such things don't affect Rawl at all. In fact, the unbothered Rawl even made the general even more furious. As a result, the general rushed in to attack him once and for all. The general is now about to start the fight with Rawl. But before that, since he's so worried for his sons, Rawl assures him that they are well inside the dungeon of the state, and that the only way for him to save them is if he is able to defeat Rawl. With a very furious look on his face, the general didn't think twice as he attacked immediately. He even stated that after he had beaten Rawl into a pulp, he and his sons shall feast on Rawl's body. With that said, the general immediately attacks as soon as he can. When he thought that everything was going great for him, he ended up getting cornered by Rawl. This time, Rawl then executes his attacks like there's no tomorrow. And with just a few swings here and there, we can clearly see on the face of the general that he is struggling immensely. However, the general seems to be so hard-headed that with such a low percentile of even winning, he still tries to attack Rawl with all his might. Rawl even jokingly gave him time to attack, but it seems like the general is just too weak even to do so. That's why Rawl immediately jumps into the finale of the fight as he cuts the general's hands off without killing him. Rawl even tells him that a feast will indeed happen later on. The general and his two sons are then seen sitting on their dining table, nailed in place by the magic of Rawl. When the general is finally woken up from his sleep, he's in great shock seeing his sons act strangely. As he furiously asks Rawl what the hell he did with his sons, Rawl then explains to him that he just copied what the general has been doing. It turns out that Rawl has found a drug that the general's wife's family has been making. He found it in the cellar when he was planning to tie the boys up. Inside the estate's dungeon, countless individuals are seen struggling with the drug. As a result, Rawl can't possibly spoil the fun. After all, the general's wife has developed the drug so outrageous in so many ways. And the fact that his wife's family is also prestigiously known to be great healers throughout the nation, Rawl can't wait to pay them a visit soon. Hearing such statements made the general angry since he probably already knew what would happen to his in-laws if Rawl were to go there. However, if I were him, I'd focus on thinking about his safety first, since Rawl is already at the end of chapter 2 and is about to start the third act. He then informs the general that the carnival feast has now commenced, and the ingredients he prepared for the feast are 2 lambs and a bull. To ensure the freshness of the meat, Rawl will cut them on the spot. He starts off by cutting the general's shoulders and frying them off like a steak. Then he moved to the thighs, which were tender and juicy. Even if the general cries for help as the excruciating pain starts to linger throughout his body, his screams wouldn't be heard by anyone. And to make things worse for the general, Rawl is now about to make his sons eat their father's flesh. The general then pleads to let him go, even with just his eldest son, who is the heir in the family. But it seems like Rawl has already decided to make the general's life as miserable as it can get, and let him meet the same fate as what he did to Rawl's mother. That said, for the finale, Rawl ended up killing the whole family in an instant. Now that he has already done his mission at the killer's castle, he shall now go and play with his next prey, which is the general's wife's family. At the Altman Resort National Pharmaceutical Research Institute, Dr. Renee Beneke is seen experimenting on live people as she tries to see how much of the body a person can afford to lose before dying. After playing with her human guinea pig, she puts their organs on display as a souvenir of some sort. She even starts wondering what would happen if she replaced a human's brain with a monkey's. Such a psychopath. She didn't even stop there. Young kids aren't even safe around her since she also uses them as lab rats. Although the kid tries to plead for help, it seems like Renee is already blinded by darkness. In a little while, the military commander advisor, whose name is Lucas Eckhart, enters the scene to retrieve all the waste that Renee has piled up. The commander doesn't really care about whatever dark scheme Renee has up on her sleeves. For him, all that matters is the money that she'll pay him. On the other hand, the Research Institute supervisor, Lord DaCosta, then informs Renee that he wants to make a drug that will make soldiers immortal. This way, they won't be subjects that perish quickly from a painful fight. However, the problem is that immortals are hard to control, considering the power they hold. That's why Renee has thought of a plan to employ a drug that makes the soldiers destroy themselves after a set period of time. This way, they can still somehow control their human machines and raise the specimen's strength and have them annihilate the enemy without them thinking much of the consequences after. That said, Renee immediately started with the experiments. The supervisor's son, Johannes, also started to gather as many soldiers as he could for the testing of the formula. But it seems like much of the formula doesn't work the same way as Renee and the supervisor have been wanting. As a result, they ended up looking for more guinea pigs they could play with. It even reached the point that they started bribing villagers and lying to them that they could live in the estate if they did one thing. But we all know they ended up getting killed by the hands of these demons. When it finally reaches the time that Renee is able to formulate the ideal drug they want, they start executing the plans immediately the next day. While on the other hand, Rawl is now finally at the estate and is about to start his third chapter, which is playing with the brave, a hide and seek that ends in death. With the news about Rawl spreading havoc throughout the kingdom, and the fact that the Lord's daughter, the general's wife, has been killed on their estate, made everyone in the research facility scared for their life. Johannes then suggests to his father that they should ask the military to come and help them, since he doesn't really want to get killed like his little sister. Dr. Renee, however, ensures them that as long as they have the poison, Rawl couldn't possibly lay a finger on them. Lucas on the corner then speaks up about the warning letter that the royal capital has sent, and with all the things that are happening inside the facility, everything in the letter sounds more realistic now than it was before. Lucas then mentions how Rawl wanted to exact revenge on the people he'll target. This made the eyes of the three widen as if a flashback of wrongful memories started to flood their heads. When Lucas asks if there's a reason for the hero to target them, Dr. Renee is quick to respond that there is not. However, Johannes slips, which now makes the situation worse. Lucas now thinks that there might be a justifiable reason behind the hero's actions, but Dr. Renee added that Rawl is just a mere traitor that has gone crazy. However, Lucas doesn't believe any of her statements. He then added that if they were true to him, he would not be able to protect them from harm. Knowing that Lucas is the only one among the four who can fight in one-on-one combat with Rawl, the Lord then states their sin. It was all because of a drug that they had prescribed to the soldiers during the war. However, before they can even finish their conversation, a dead monster is climbing their windows. Of course, such a scene shocks them. During this time, Rawl then announces the game of hide and seek in which he wants the four to participate. Since the conversation earlier was cut short, Lucas then asks again if the soldiers that the Lord mentioned earlier are the hero's beloved men, his supply soldier comrades. The Lord then reasons that they simply prescribed performance-enhancing drugs, but the side effect was so lethal that they ended up killing everyone in the group. That said, since that day, Raul has never stopped thinking of the possible way he could kill the evil people who mercilessly killed his men. Lucas then asks them if the person is safe in the facility. As they remember that, they rush towards the safe room to look for it. However, it seemed like they were already late. Meanwhile, a while earlier, Raul is seen on the first floor having quite a stroll in the hallway, trying to formulate how he will possibly execute his plans. He even took the general's bones with him and manipulated them to serve as his assistant. As a natural reaction, everyone on the ground floor was in a panic, considering the wanted deadly killer was now with them. To make them even tremble in fear, Raul orders the general's bones to attack the researchers without completely killing them. It seems like Raul has better plans for the researchers' bodies. He then gets the poison that he took from the safe room and makes every single researcher drink it. As a result, they ended up becoming the same monsters they had been experimenting with making. Now that Raul has already executed his plans to turn everyone on the ground floor into this ugly-looking weaponized human, it will be just a matter of time before the over 100 researchers on the ground floor self-destruct. That's why he will now move into the second phase of his plans. But before that, he makes sure to have fun while it lasts. He punches and kicks some of these low-life human monsters who see his beloved men as trash and unworthy of respect. They literally took a taste of their own medicine. With the rage he is feeling for his fallen men, Raul makes sure to play with the corpses until the end. Turns out that Raul has just recently looked into the wrongdoings of the other researchers while he was doing a preliminary inspection. The words that the researchers mutter about the fallen innocent soldiers whom they used as lab rats are just so irritating to hear. They don't have respect and dignity toward other people, which makes Raul boil up in anger. That's why instead of killing just the general's wife's family, Raul ended up ending everyone's lives inside the facility. After all, of all the 231 people inside the research lab, not a single one of them had a decent soul. A few minutes have already passed, and the human monsters have now burst to their deaths, which made Raul laugh in happiness as he witnessed the people behind the death of the innocent get killed by their own schemes. Raul didn't anticipate that the people he thought were the ones that were good were actually the ones that would cause harm to the innocent. The enemy wasn't at the front lines, but within. Now that everyone is already taken care of on the ground floor, it's time for Raul to head up to the top floor, where even marvelous things will happen. It is then revealed that Raul has been hearing all that the four have been talking about since earlier. He tries not to laugh his ass off with the funny things he hears them saying. However, he tries to compose himself to make the game more fun. As he explains the rules to everyone, Dr. Rene tries to escape the facility, but every exit point is now barricaded by dark magic, so there is no possible way they will be able to escape at all. Raul continues by stating that going outside is futile. The hide-and-seek game is only applicable inside the Research Institute. Now it appears that no one cannot escape. The game has officially commenced. It's a matter of time before we know who will be the one to get found first. The Lord said that they should just stay inside the room and lock the doors until midnight, since by that time, Raul had already promised that he'd let them escape. Lucas, on the other hand, seems not to believe such promises, and the fact that they still have another 6 hours to go. The chances of them surviving is very slim if they'll just stay put. This is when Dr. Rene suggests that they should hide in a room that the hero doesn't know. However, before they even go there, Dr. Rene decides out of nowhere to make a coffee despite everything that is happening to them currently. It seems like Dr. Rene is planning a horrible scheme to kill the three so that her escape would be easy. However, Lucas has seen through her plans, and that's why he asks her if they could exchange cups. Dr. Rene then reveals that the only 2 cups with the poison is the one that she gave to the Lord and Johannes. But something is revealed that will definitely shock you. It turns out that Raul was disguising himself as Lucas this whole time, and for some reason, Dr. Rene is able to see through Raul's identity, which makes Raul quite amazed by how meticulous the doctor is. But it seems like Raul is not yet done and still has things up his sleeves. Dr. Rene, on the other hand, thinks she has already won after exposing Raul. Now that the Lord and Johannes have already drunk the poisonous coffee, it will be just a matter of time before they turn into monsters. But after quite some time, it seems like there's no transformation observed. Seeing how weirded out and confused Dr. Rene is, Raul then finally reveals to her that the Lord and Johannes have been long dead since they were still inside the conference room. He was just using his magical powers to manipulate the flesh to make it look like they were still alive, when in fact, they were all dead long ago. This just leaves Dr. Rene the only one alive inside the facility. She then tries to explain to herself that she is just following orders from the Lord. However, Raul already heard such excuses from the Lord himself, and that's why such reasons will not get accepted anymore. The thoughts that she's the only survivor that Raul is playing with is so scary. That said, as she trembles in fear now, she tries to escape as soon as possible. However, Raul is able to grasp her on time and tie her to place. He then takes her back to the ground floor where all of the other researchers were massacred. Raul states to her that before she undergoes her beloved experiment, she must first witness his masterpieces. As Dr. Rene opens her eyes, she is in shock and disgust to find herself in a sea of dead bodies. However, that wasn't enough for Raul, so he even played with her more by making her swim on the remains of her research till she reached the door to the underground laboratory. As they reach the ground floor, the trauma in the face of Dr. Rene is indescribable. However, it seems like Raul can't simply comprehend how with just a small number of dead bodies made the doctor shocked, when in fact, she was the one who's behind the horrible human weapon-making plan. Even though she has killed dozens of people in her laboratory alone, making horizontal slices out of a crying and screaming girl's body, starting from her feet, and transplanting a monkey's brain into a children's head, Dr. Renee has the audacity even to act as if she is traumatized. After she was treated humans as laboratory animals, she doesn't have the right to even get scared at this point because she herself is a demon. But it seems like Dr. Renee is persistent in acting as if she is innocent or what. That's why Raul, who has had enough of her, makes her remember all the nasty things she has done to people by showing her the images of the past. Dr. Renee then starts to reason that the village where Raul's men were assigned was the one that should be punished, considering they were the ones who didn't help the soldiers from dying. It turns out that once a monster drinks water, they'll technically turn back to humans, but since the village didn't help or even lend a hand, Raul's men burst to their deaths. Raul then states to Dr. Renee that she doesn't need to worry since he is also planning to exact his revenge on the said village. But before that, he will first torture her. He makes her drink as much poison as she can and leaves her to suffer in pain, but he did give her a chance to make an antidote with her current state to see what a genius doctor like her concocts. And for some reason, Dr. Renee is such a prodigy that she is able to make an antidote for herself right off the bat. Even with the excruciating pain she is in, she tries to compose herself since she doesn't want to die anytime soon. After a few dips and mixes of her potions, he is able to make an antidote for herself. This of course made her so happy. Little did she know that this would not be the end of her suffering. Raul then informs her that she will be subjected to part 2 of the experiment. The smile on Dr. Renee's face quickly fades away since she thought that after making the antidote, she'd already be free. But it turns out that Raul couldn't possibly allow her to leave the facility alive. As a human experiment, Dr. Renee is subjected to be tested under different concentrations and testing samples throughout the procedure. From a few vials, she ended up drinking 13, 21, 41, and more. She still had the choice to make an antidote for herself, but seemed like her body couldn't take it any longer. She tried to beg for her life, but Raul only stated to her that it was such a shame that the dead couldn't hear her apology. Her skin now looks crispy looking, akin to a burnt animal. She tried her best to stay alive till the end, but it seemed like her best wasn't enough. It took her 17 hours and 31 minutes to get killed. But with that said, Dr. Renee's death concludes the revenge story about the crazed doctor who doesn't think or care about people's well-being at all. Now Raul is off to the next thing on the list. He's now on the way to the other demons who have sinned. It's just a matter of time before we know whom he targets next. This episode starts off in an innocent-looking village called Nor. 2 girls who are sisters got lost in the woods, so they are trying to find someone who can help them go home. One of the villagers decided to help the poor girls with such delight. The man brought the girls to their home and fed them like they were some real visitors. The man even suggested that the girls should just stay for the night since it was going to be quite dangerous if they stayed out and about in the woods. Both girls were so happy that there were people who were still willing to help them wholeheartedly. Little did the poor girls know that in the next few hours, they would regret their decision to stay in the innocent-looking village. While they're in their deep sleep, the girls are awakened by the hard choking of the villagers, who looks at them as if they are a good catch of fish. It turns out that the village is actually performing this dark scheme every time a traveler passes through. They start stealing every valuable thing each traveler has as this is their only way of living. But since the girls were only children, they ended up with such a small haul. That's why they decided to cut the girls' hair and sell it as a wig. This way they'll still be able to get a large sum of money. After shaving the girls' hair and getting what they wanted, the villagers immediately killed the 2 and buried them somewhere back in the forest. When they thought that this marked another day for them, the villagers ended up getting haunted by one of the girls' dead bodies as it knocked on the village gate once more, looking for its big sister. As a natural reaction, the gatekeepers were shocked to see the same girl they'd buried earlier alive and kicking. In fact, she's much stronger now than she was before. However, it turns out that it is all Raul's doing. The villager didn't recognize him at first, but when he finally introduced himself, everyone was shocked to know that the most wanted man in the whole kingdom was in their village now. The villagers then start asking why the former hero would be in a place like their village. Raul then bluntly asks if they still remember that 1 year ago, a strange monster appeared around the village. But it seems like the villagers are trying to deny such claims. That's why Raul decided to remind them of what happened on that same day. Before the Demon King was defeated, a number of demon monsters had been bringing terror to people, especially in the slums. One day, many children were killed in a rural area in the kingdom due to 2 demons who heartlessly and brutally tortured them for fun. One group of children is ready to face their deaths when one of the demons decides to play with them first. He gets one of the children and lifts it up, stating that the kid's friends should look at how he will torture the poor kid. Without even thinking twice, the demon ended up removing the kid's eyeballs like it was nothing. Thankfully, before things got out of control, Raul is able to come into the scene to save the leftover survivors. Raul then asks some of his comrades to help the other kids as well by providing them with first aid. However, it seems like the kids are still a bit angry at the fact that a hero like Raul is late in saving them. Maybe if Raul got there earlier, many people might have still been alive. The kids wish that if they had the same power and strength as Raul, they would pour all their might to ensure that everyone is safe and alive. Crying their hearts out for the loss of their friends, the kids think that they are weak and will always be. However, Rawl tries to comfort them by saying that he used to be like them as well. His mother got killed by nasty monsters alongside his whole village, and that experience is what made him who he is today. He added that to become stronger, they should make sure to be dedicated each and every day. To make it even more memorable for the kids, Rawl also handed one of them his dagger, which had been with him through his battles. This way, the children will stay dedicated and motivated to protect everyone. A few months have passed by since Rawl saved the children from the slums. They're now well and happy as they're about to become brave soldiers in the future. But before they start with their first ever big journey as junior cadets, it is seen that Johannes from the previous episode starts distributing the fatal drug to the poor kids. And since they are just children who are naive of the true harsh color of the world, they end up obeying what Johannes has told them. As a result, in an instant, they ended up transforming into that monster's form. With much agony and pain, the children tried to look for help in neighboring villages, one of them being Nor. They tried their best to assure the people of the village that they'll harm nobody. However, it seems like the villagers were not technically scared of that. When the children ask for water they can drink so they can transform back into their human form, the villagers just laughed them off, stating they should pay any amount of money before anything else. With all the water resources they have inside the village, the villagers still opted not to help because of their greed. As a result, the innocent children who had dreams of protecting everyone in the kingdom burst into their deaths. And what makes things far more gruesome is that the villagers even had the audacity to steal from the dead. They even got the dagger that Rawl had given one of the children. That said, with all of their crimes exposed, the villagers now one by one try to state their own reasons. Most of them stated that they were just following the chief's order. However, Rawl doesn't accept such an explanation. After all, no matter how they plead, no single soul can ever escape the crimes they have committed. Since Rawl thinks that actions speak louder than words, he uses his magic controlling powers to make the villagers follow him on a super exciting field trip that the villagers will not forget. Below the scorching sun, Rawl makes the villagers walk mile after mile. Rawl plans to make the villagers walk as far as they can until they reach ManHwaCapped village. That's why when they saw the entrance to the said village, the villagers were very happy. As they rush towards the village entrance, they are bombarded with disappointment as they find themselves back in their village. Some of them already know that Rawl might have been using magic to trick them. Walking for long hours below the sun makes the villagers so thirsty. I mean, who wouldn't? But no matter how thirsty they are, they haven't reached their goal yet. And as a result, they will once again go through another breathless journey to the ManHwaCapped village. Rawl even tries to provoke everyone by drinking a refreshing bottle of water. The villager's chief even begs Rawl for 1 cup of water. However, Rawl has already turned heartless toward evil people like them. It is said that the destination for the field trip is the mining village of ManHwaCapped, which is near Nor village. However, in this fun field trip, they will always be sent back to the starting location the moment they see the goal. The scenery that the villagers have been seeing is something that Rawl made with illusion magic. But in reality, the villagers have just been going in circles around Nor village. It's technically a field trip with never-ending suffering. One of the villagers then begs Rawl just to let the kids go, even if just the kids. One villager then starts stating that making a kid suffer like this is just heartless. Rawl is then quick to respond that if it's a game of who's more heartless or not, the villagers have already won. That said, Rawl then erased the kids from the picture by melting their bodies one by one. The villagers were obviously in shock and despair as they saw their children die. However, little did they know that Rawl couldn't do such horrible things to an innocent child. In fact, the real children are still in the village but are confined by the barrier spell Rawl has made to ensure they'll not leave. On the other hand, the kids that Rawl melted in front of the grown-ass villagers were just illusions. Then finally, the whole group reached ManHwaCapped village. Now some things are about to happen that everyone didn't anticipate. The front guards in the ManHwaCapped village are in shock as they see a group of people coming their way. They first thought that they were monsters, but as the Nor villagers came closer, they were able to see the clear picture of how pitiful the villagers looked now. They are dying to drink a drop of water to the point that they'll almost bring the whole gate down. They start begging for water again and again. And since the ManHwaCapped villagers are far more generous and kind-hearted compared to the ones in the Nor, Rawl decides to reveal the evil schemes of the Nor villagers by acting as one of them. Rawl then shows the ribbon that one of the Nor villagers got from the 2 girls they had killed earlier. And as a turn of events, the 2 girls are actually the daughters of one of the ManHwaCapped villagers. The Nor villagers try to reason out they did not commit all the said crimes. However, it seems like everything that Rawl has said coincides with the missing and killing events happening in the area. As a result, instead of helping them, the ManHwaCapped villagers decided not to, as the crimes of the Nor must be paid. In the end, the Nor villagers were able to meet the same fate as their victims before. Then there's a flashback showing how the Count and his son Johannes got killed by Rawl back in the research facility. It turns out that Rawl notified the father and son of his coming. Although they have prepared much for Rawl's arrival, considering they know they wouldn't stay alive much longer once Rawl gets their hands on him. However, it seems like even if they hire as many soldiers as they can against Rawl, it is still impossible to defeat such a strong man like Rawl, who has now become immortal and far more skillful than he was before. That's why when the time Rawl is about to annihilate the father and son in tandem, as most humans would do with their devilish nature, Johannes tries to betray his father by asking Rawl to spare him, and his father does the same. This scene just made Rawl laugh. However, for Rawl, their sins can no longer be redeemed, and we already know what happened next. Back to the present, it seems like the Nor village chief is hard to kill. He hasn't given up yet and is still begging for water to drink, even if most of the villagers are now dead behind him. With such a desperate look on his face, the chief tries to beg Rawl for water to drink. However, to taste his own medicine, Rawl asks the chief for money in exchange for water, the same way he did with Rawl's beloved comrades before. That said, as Rawl walks away without even giving him a drop of water, the chief ends up dying. Back at Nor village, the kids are wondering when their parents will be coming back, but Rawl informs them that no parents will be coming back to take care of them. Rawl is then shocked by the way the children act, as if they were already taught how to kill and steal from people to make ends meet. That's why, instead of wasting such talent in killing, Rawl decided to make the children soldiers. He uses his powers to control them into entering a military camp near the village. At least this way, the kids will still have a place to stay and a purpose in life. Now that his mission in killing the despicable people of the village is done, he will now move on to his next phase, or should I say move back, as he's now going to execute the part of his revenge act on the princess. However, this time around, he'll have another protagonist in the story, and it's none other than Sandra, the commander of knights that Princess Victoria has tortured immensely. Rawl rushes to the kingdom's palace and kills every soldier he encounters to take Sandra out of the dungeon. Sandra will now be the next leading actress in his act in the 5th chapter he titled Love is Never Without Jealousy. After hearing about the disappearance of Sandra, the princess is obviously irritated by everything. She's so angry at the thought that her men are so incompetent. She can't seem to comprehend that Sandra is able to escape the prison in her current state, and even having the guards killed doesn't add up to everything. Then she started to realize that maybe it was another scheme arranged by Rawl himself, knowing that her face had now recovered from the massive injury it got last time. This makes the princess anxious about what's going to happen next. As a result, she makes everyone in the palace look for Sandra as soon as possible. Meanwhile, a few hours ago inside the dungeon, Rawl is seen talking to Sandra. However, it seems like Sandra already went cray-cray as she starts muttering words about the princess again and again. Somehow, such behavior entertains Rawl very much. He then disguises himself as the princess and tries to deceive Sandra into believing that the princess has already forgiven her and is now entrusting her to perform another task. With much happiness on her face, Sandra immediately states that she is willing to do anything for the princess. As she looks back to her past for the sake of the princess, she even killed her brothers, even if not ordered to show her loyalty. That's why she can also do the same now, as long as she can continue to serve the princess. This made Rawl happy as his new act is now falling into the right place. He then healed Sandra and gave her all her armor and swords. Sandra then obeys whatever Rawl is ordering as she truly thought it was all the princess's orders. She starts creating terror inside the palace as she slices off every single servant and soldier who comes her way. Now blood and many guts are scattered on the palace's floors. The real Princess Victoria is still irritated at the fact that her men haven't found Sandra yet. Little did she know that Sandra was already creating havoc on the other side of the palace. Then it just took a few moments before Sandra barged into the princess's throne carrying an amputated head. The princess is in shock to see how bloody and gross Sandra is. Sandra then hands over the head towards the princess, stating that this is her offering as the princess requested. The princess then tells her men to stop Sandra immediately, all at once. Sandra then tells the princess that she has already killed the king's aides, as the princess has requested. And this made the princess confused since she didn't ask for such orders. The statement made the princess caught off guard as the people around her started to mutter accusations towards her. On the other hand, Sandra is still looking so happy, thinking that this is all the princess desired. However, the princess doesn't think the same. Princess Victoria is so irritated that she aims to strike her whip at Sandra once more. However, she ends up whipping herself due to the magical barrier that Rawl has inflicted on Sandra. Furious, the princess has now decided to revoke Sandra from her position as a knight. Despite all this happening, the princess has found a silver lining in it. She thinks that as long as she's the one that can kill Rawl, she will become the first queen of Kurs without a man. People will look at her as a hero and will obey her the way she wants. But little did she know, Rawl has more tricks up his sleeves. It's the day of Sandra's public punishment. The princess decided to have one since it would serve as a warning to those who want to oppose her, that this is the fate of the traitors. Princess Victoria tries to blame Sandra for all the sins that she has committed in hopes that she'll get the trust of the people back. As the princess slowly gets what she wants, people now turn against Sandra and start throwing things at her. Seeing how the people are in a rage, the princess is so happy as she thinks her plans are falling into the right places. Many of the people start screaming that Sandra should die. She's a killer and an abuser. Sandra tried to explain to herself that everything she had done as a knight was for the people, for protecting everyone. However, it seems like the people of the Kurs kingdom are as evil as the princess. They just started laughing off and torturing Sandra even more instead of listening to her. To make it worse, the princess also orders the other knights to throw Sandra into the crowd. Since they can't really execute her due to the protective barrier Rawl inflicted on her, the princess just decides to let Sandra's weak body get feasted on by lustful men in the crowd. As Sandra screams because of the harassment she is going through, other women in the crowd just stand and watch as men touch her body as if she is a mere toy. The princess just laughs devilishly, watching how the men drool on Sandra. Then out of nowhere, Rawl comes into the scene, now marking the start of another exciting act. For some reason, the princess doesn't seem to be in fear at all. Rawl, on the other hand, seems to see how nostalgic it is to see men purging on Sandra the same way it was the last time with Princess Victoria. Rawl just laughs at the way that the people are acting as if they're the most virtuous people in the world. That said, as Rawl is already in the mood to start his act, he starts off by introducing the new main actors and actresses in this chapter. He starts by announcing to the people the new full lineup of traders he wants to include in the grand event. These are Archmage Wendell, Saint Christiana, Dame Sandra, and of course, Princess Victoria. He starts off with a backstory about Archmage Wendell. Wendell was Rawl's comrade, whom he thought of as his own brother. However, during the time that Rawl's sister and the people in the village are killed, Wendell reveals that he is one of the traders who want nothing from Rawl other than the power he had at that time. Wendell honestly stated to Rawl that he never thought of him as a comrade or a brother. Rawl was just a mere imbecile to Wendell. Wendell was also closely affiliated with the attacks that killed many of Rawl's loved ones. That said, back in the present, Wendell tries to tell people about Rawl's killings these past few days to try to make the people choose which side is indeed in the wrong. Wendell also started to lecture Rawl about what's right to what's wrong. Like, the audacity. Gosh. Rawl, on the other hand, almost laughs at the fact that Wendell can't even say these words to him personally, and just sends an illusion. Hearing this made the princess shocked since she herself wasn't aware that Wendell had just sent an illusion of himself. However, Rawl is not yet done introducing his main cast. Rawl is now about to introduce Saint Christiana, whom he picked as one of the traders in his past life. However, Christiana is quick to respond that she isn't a traitor in the same way that Rawl thinks. Although the saint didn't directly harm Rawl in any form, she was still the one who instigated the princess. For a saint, Christiana was a rather perverted one as she tried to talk many dirty thoughts to the princess about Rawl. It turns out that the princess has some lustful thoughts about Rawl that she doesn't want anyone to know except Christiana, and these fetishes started when the saint started inflicting thoughts on the princess that the Lord wanted Rawl and the princess to be united, since this was the only way the princess could have Rawl. Such comments somehow made the princess interested in speaking with the saint. Since Rawl is saving many people, it's up to the princess to release his masculine desire and make him fall for her. In doing so, Rawl will no longer be able to live without the princess. At that point, Princess Victoria has already landed her fetish towards the hero, and she will not stop until she makes him hers. The saint then suggested that the princess should look into the people that were involved with Rawl and find out who they were. This may be the reason why the princess ends up killing Rawl's sister and the people in the village, in hopes that Rawl will give much of his attention to her. Now that the fetishes of the princess have been exposed to the people, she can't seem to act properly now. She's somehow embarrassed and irritated at the same time. The princess tries to hide the embarrassment she is feeling by stating that she is angry at the fact that Rawl and the saint have been spitting lie after lie. That's why, with much desperation to save her name, she tells Rawl that she has finally found a way to end him. Since Rawl is known to possess dark magic, the princess has been researching day and night for its weaknesses. She was then able to find out that Rawl's black magic weakness was none other than holy magic. There are only a few individuals in the kingdom that are able to possess such power. Fortunately for the princess, there is one in the Cur's kingdom that possesses holy magic. Saint Christiana is one of the few who have unmatchable skills and power, and holy magic is only one of the skills she possesses, which is considered to be her cleansing power. Light magic is the only power capable of purifying dark magic. That's why when the princess learned about such a thing, she was so delighted that a saint was on her side. Since she is so certain that the saint will be able to kill Rawl, she even announces to the people that she'll protect them and that the curse on the castle will end that day. However, when she orders the saint to kill Rawl with her powers, she's in deep shock as the saint refuses to do so, and obviously, the princess becomes furious at what the saint has been uttering. The saint then is quick to explain that she cannot obey the princess's orders, as stated by the king. The saint then further stated that the king had instructed in the letter he had sent to leave Princess Victoria to die since she was always an eyesore. The princess can't seem to believe what she just heard. She has this mixture of emotions painted on her face. I mean, what do we expect? Even her own father wants to dispose of her. That's why Rawl suggests that the saint shows the princess the proof so that she stops babbling nonsense already. As the saint takes out the letter that the king has sent, it seems like the princess's world shattered to pieces as she sees that the crest on the letter marks everything that the saint said was true. Hearing and seeing how the princess reacts, the people in the audience start murmuring in disbelief that the king himself has already given up on his child. The princess, on the other hand, can't control her anger anymore. It's as if she wants to cry, but at the same time, she's so furious that tears don't come down her eyes anymore. After reading the letter where her father states that he's willing to sacrifice her for the people, literally made her blood boil. The king is willing to use the life of the princess to appease the hero's anger. Instead of ending up as a dual incompetent girl, the king promises the princess that she'll have a meaningful death. With much rage in her, she starts to order her knights to capture Rawl and the saint. However, it seems like the knights need to obey the king's orders above the princess's. Now that no one is on the princess's side, even her soldiers have turned their back on her. The stress kinda transforms her fresh look into this beast-like human one. Rawl can't contain his laughter as the crowd also starts to say their hatred towards the princess, knowing that the brat has no more power over them. However, the princess can't seem to tell the truth. She keeps on insisting that she's the only child of the king and the rightful heir to the throne. She's considered to be the gem of the kingdom, so no one would be able to replace her. But that ambition comes crashing down when Rawl informs her that the king already has 3 more children from his concubines. It seems like the king also has no trust in his daughter, and he even needs to resort to a secret plan just to make sure that Princess Victoria doesn't take over the kingdom. Hearing all this is the turning point for the princess. She now looks like a lone wolf in the woods, and Rawl just can't seem to stop laughing at how pitiful the princess is now. The most beautiful face in the entire kingdom of Curse looks like a filthy beast now. The crowd starts saying harsh words towards the princess, stating that she is worthless now, and that they are simply obeying her against their will since she's the daughter of the king. Now that everyone looks at her as if she's nobody, there's still one person in the kingdom that is still loyal to her. It's none other than the Knight's commander Sandra. Even though her body is now so weak, Sandra tries to climb into the stage and joins the princess in her toughest times. However, it seems like the princess doesn't want her to come closer, but the love that Sandra has for the princess is beyond imagination, and it's painful to see how she has sacrificed a lot for the brat. Sandra wants to rescue her from her suffering. However, it seems like the princess doesn't want to be rescued. While they're on stage, Sandra, for the first time, has finally confessed her love for the princess. Since Rawl still has control over Sandra, Sandra unexpectedly stabs the princess, but not in a lethal way. This is then followed by the slashing of Sandra's neck. In the end, both of the protagonists have made quite a spectacular show for the people to see. Since Rawl can't possibly allow Princess Victoria to die just like that, he drags her to a place where he keeps all the dead bodies of the people he has taken revenge on. This place is so sacred to Rawl that it now serves as his sanctuary. He then crucified her beneath the moonlit night, to torture her and make her suffer the same way she made innocent ones suffer for her fun. Rawl gathered as many wild animals as he could. As the animals rushed towards the princess's body, they start feasting on her flesh like there was no tomorrow. They eat slowly and thoroughly, which makes her suffer even more. Wolves are now devouring her flesh and the ravens gouge her eyes. But despite such pain, she won't die, as she will suffer lasting agony. On the other hand, as Rawl wanders his eyes on his collection, he sees that there's still more space where he can add people that he plans to take revenge on. Now it's just a matter of time before we know who his next target is. 1 month later, in the enslaved demon internment camp, Archmage Wendell and a man that looks like Rawl are seen with the man who's in charge of the demon enslavement. The man that looks like Rawl seems to be frustrated at Wendell for some reason, and we'll know the answer as to why later on. Meanwhile, at an arena in the Kingdom of Curse, the real Rawl is seen chilling while he watches what seems to be a fight. With that said, the 6th chapter has now finally started, entitled The Enslaved Demon Rebellion. In the country of Curse, the castle of Auerbach, the king has called for Rawl himself. With a big smile on his face, Rawl enters the palace happily and is ready to meet the big boss of the country. It seems like the king would just like to ask Rawl if he enjoyed the show he was watching a while ago. It turns out that it was actually an execution banquet for the thousands of former heroes who have burned villages with General Brown. The king is hoping that the lives of the useless objects can at least entertain him, but it seems like Rawl wasn't entertained at all, so he opted to take the liberty of teaching them a real show. That's why the whole banquet was a bloody mess. People started killing each other and even some executed people against whom they had no grudge. However, Rawl thinks that the people of the country itself are crazy enough even to reach that point. But the king thinks that Rawl is far crazier than anyone, so Rawl asks how the king concluded so. The king then states that the evil of committing unimaginable cruelties is something only Rawl is able to do. The king also opened up about the rumor that someone pretending to be a hero is hunting demons near the frontier. This made Rawl somehow interested, knowing that he was at the capital the whole day. There was no possible way that he could be in 2 places at the same time. The king then informs Rawl that the said imposter really looks a lot like Rawl. Then one of the ministers of the king suggested that it was still too early to conclude that the man was actually an imposter. However, after stating his opinions, Rawl kills him unexpectedly. The king then somehow remains silent about the rude behavior of Rawl, and instead even states that the minister is wrong. This made the king's servant shocked. The king then moves right back into the conversation about the imposter. He informs Rawl that the imposter is working with Archmage Wendell, whom Rawl has treated as a close comrade before, and some man named Cameron Allingham. The king wants Rawl to teach the two a lesson since they've been selling demon slaves all they want. Rawl then agrees, considering the fact that he already had a grudge against Wendell. That said, Rawl immediately traveled to the land of Curse, territory of the demons of Hollerbach. At the detention camp, the Rawl lookalike is seen with Cameron Allingham, who's the head of the facility. Many demon kids are seen getting assaulted again and again until they can't even move an inch. Seeing how battered the kids are, the fake Rawl seems not to take any of it anymore, so he starts vomiting from all the nasty things he has witnessed. While he is inside the bathroom, he's in shock as he sees the real Rawl observing him in the back. Seeing the real Rawl in front of him makes him tremble in fear. The fake Rawl somehow felt the intense aura that Rawl has been giving. After all, Rawl is now considered to be one of the most dangerous and feared individuals in the kingdom. Rawl, on the other hand, is amazed at how the imitator is able to imitate him in every single possible way imaginable. Now that the imitator knows that if he doesn't plead now, he might die later, he bows his head to the ground and says he's sorry again and again. The fake Rawl states that all he wanted to do was earn as much money as possible. That's why he used Rawl's appearance to get closer to Wendell and Allingham to land a good paying job. Crying his eyes out, the fake Rawl even went so far that he even licked Rawl's shoes just to show how sorry he was. Amazed by the behavior that the man showed, Raul informs the imposter that he knows it wasn't all because of money. This immediately makes the imposter stop crying. Raul then states that they should have a proper conversation over some black tea. After they both sit down, Raul then suggests that they should be properly introduced to one another. However, before the imposter can even speak first, Raul already states the imposter's name, which turns out to be a woman. Ada Taylor is in shock as to how Raul is able to know so much about her, especially her name. Raul then went on to explain that he did his own investigation, and it all ended up with her. There are only a few people in the area that have the ability to copy appearances, and based on the digging that Raul did, Ada is the only person with such magic that can possibly be related to Wendell and Allingham in any form. It turns out that Ada's family got killed by the people that work in the said demon trafficking business. That's why Raul concluded that Ada may have wanted to get his attention so that he could help her exact her revenge on Wendell and Allingham. With a dark smirk on his face, Raul tries to persuade Ada to call forth her desire for revenge, which is something she has always been wanting since the beginning. Hearing these words, Ada started thinking in her mind that ever since that day, she had kept having nightmares while awake. Nightmares that will persist forever until she kills those two. A few years back, Ada's father, who is a veteran trader and works as Allingham's accountant, was able to observe something strange in the way that Allingham had been acting one night. From his observations, he saw that Allingham was carrying something to the cellar. Since he has grown suspicious of the actions that Allingham has been taking recently, he can't contain his curiosity anymore. Ada's father ends up going to the said cellar to check things out for himself. As he opens the nightmarish door, he's shocked to discover that there's a secret room inside the cellar. As he peeps through the small opening at the door, he's speechless as he witnesses a group of demon children held captive inside. But what makes things worse is that as Ada's father tries to observe more, he's disgusted by what Allingham has done to the kids. Allingham started doing some malicious things to them that were beyond imaginable. In the end, as Ada's father tries to check on the kids' well-being, he's in despair as he sees the tortured looks of the demon children in the hands of Allingham. Although he tried to save some of them, he was too late as the majority suffered many injuries that no doctor could ever cure. That's why Ada's father decided to take actions and report the happenings inside Allingham's residence to the capital. Before he left, he even said goodbye and gave kisses to Ada. However, little did he know it would be the last time he would see his family. The next day, Ada and her family are able to receive a package where the dead body of their father is packed, with a saying that states traitors would be executed. Her plethora of memories with her father were all painted over by the recollection of that day. That's why she tries to avenge her father no matter what. But it seems like Ada doesn't have the courage and strength to do so. So Raul tries to convince her and motivate her that revenge will not make someone go mad. Raul made himself a perfect example. He only took revenge on the people who had done wrong to his family and the people he loved. And seeing the people who made you suffering is the best feeling ever. That's why Raul tries to convince Ada to join hands with him and avenge those people Ada loves. Since Raul also wanted to kill Wendell and Allingham, joining forces would make things easier for both of them. Without anything to lose, Ada accepts Raul's offer. However, it seems like Ada is still weak and doesn't have any guts to fight anyone, as she sees herself as a weak one. That's why Raul let her use his body as a medium for their revenge. Ada is taken aback by her sudden soul diving into Raul's body, but Raul assures her that he will make sure to guide her along the way. It seems like Raul wants Ada to be the one in control of the revenge. That's why he'll let her borrow his skills and strength at the moment. That said, as everything is already in place, Ada and Raul, who share one body at the moment, will now start executing their most wanted revenge, especially for Ada. As they reach the cellar, a group of guards is seen punching and kicking any demon child they can grab. It seems like they just do this to pleasure themselves. Ada, who's inside Raul's body, seems to hesitate in fighting the guards since the only one she is after is Allingham and Wendell. Raul then tried to tell her that the guards were also part of the whole evil doing. That's why they must be killed as well. That said, Ada now rushes towards the enemies, killing them one by one with all her might. She makes sure that she uses every inch of Raul's power to make sure no enemies stay alive. With the strength of Raul, she uses it to punch and kick the big guards. She also used some of the magical powers Raul has. When they finally defeated all of the guards, the demon slaves were somehow in disbelief that they were all saved by the same man that works for Allingham. That's why Raul tells Ada that she should explain everything to the demon slaves so that they can grasp the situation. However, it seems like Ada's statement doesn't really get through to the demon slaves, and as a result, Raul ends up subbing in to talk. With all his flowering and encouraging words about freedom, he promises the slaves that he will kill Allingham together with his allies and make sure that the freedom the demons deserve is given. With such a motivational and heartfelt speech, Raul easily got the hearts of the demons, and now they see Raul as their savior. Some even volunteer to help him in killing the mean guys. As the demon slaves chant the words "kill them," for Raul, this is the most beautiful music to his ears. At this point, Ada realizes that she has taken the hand of an unfathomable man. That's all we have for today. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified if we upload part 2 of the series. Till next time, bye!